Hello and welcome back to Wyoming Watch from the Wyoming Tribune-Eagle. I'm Noah Zahn, your state government reporter here. On Wednesday night, Cheyenne City Council held a meeting to discuss potential 6-penny sales tax items. These funds have supported city and county projects like the Laramie County Library and the Laramie County Senior Center in recent years by increasing sales tax by 1% for as long as it takes to recover the funds used for these public projects. At the meeting, city officials discussed potential options to suggest putting on the ballot. When a ballot is finalized by the Laramie County Commissioners, county voters will then get the choice to decide which items to approve or shoot down. A vote on the next slate of projects is set to take place next August. On Thursday, the day following the city meeting, our local government reporter Alyssa Tolman met with Cheyenne Mayor Patrick Collins to talk about some of those projects. Here's that conversation now.
Okay, so today I am here with Cheyenne Mayor Patrick Collins, and he's going to tell us a little bit about the upcoming 6-penny sales tax ballot that will be coming out in the next few months. So just to start us off quickly, can you give me a brief explanation about what the 6-penny sales tax is and why it's important or needed in our community?
You know, I look at the 6-penny as those really essential types of infrastructure projects that the city, county, Pine Bluffs, Burns, and Albin would not be able to do with the budget and the funding that we typically have. Mm-hmm. So, like from the county's perspective, you know, when they built the library, it's such a large project, so important for the community, but yet no way that they could have built that without having the 6-penny sales tax. And I think about Cheyenne, the last time we asked for 3 new fire stations. Mm-hmm. It was more than $20 million. And we have a $74 million budget. We would never be able to build new fire stations. And so when we have these really critical infrastructure needs, we can go to the voters and say, hey, we'd like to build these. Would you give us permission? And would you approve a 1-penny sales tax that would fund those? And as soon as they're paid for, the sales tax goes off. Mm-hmm. And in this case, the sales tax is going to end sometime in the first quarter of next year. And next August, we're going to vote on the next iteration. And the city's working on their list. The county, Pine Bluffs, Burns, and Albin are working on theirs. Mm-hmm. And we'll collaboratively put together a ballot and present it to the voters and hope that they will support some of it.
Yeah, and
not all of it.
Yeah, well, and that's pretty good. And so that kind of leads me into my next question. I was looking to clarify, and you kind of just now. I've been trying to research it myself, but haven't been able to find any clear answer online. I used to think that the 6-penny vote was recurring, like the 5th penny happens every 4 years, but I guess it's not a kind of a recurring thing, like on a set schedule. So can you kind of explain what's the factor that determines when a 6-penny happens? Is it when we reach the money amount needed from the last one?
Well, when we put projects on a 6-penny and they're approved, mm-hmm. the tax is in effect until all of those projects are paid for. Mm-hmm. And once those projects are paid for, the county makes that announcement and they turn the tax off. Okay. So if only a couple things pass, it might be done in a year. If the whole ballot, like the last time passed, it might take 5 years. Mm-hmm. And so that one is specifically, the duration of it is specifically related to how many projects are approved and the dollar amount. And on the 5th penny sales tax, again, it's an optional tax. We don't have to do the 5th penny. I can't imagine Cheyenne in our county without it. Mm-hmm. But it is a different kind of tax. It's on for 4 years. And no matter if you get all the money or you don't get all the money, it turns off. And then we have to come back and we have to share with the voters, here's the money we asked for, how we spent it, and we have to ask permission to do it again. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the same thing with the 6-penny sales tax. We put a slate of projects together, and whatever passes gets funded, and then as soon as they're funded, the tax ends.
Okay, gotcha. And then another thing that I was a little bit, I guess I learned the real process last night a little bit more, but what I used to think was that you put these projects out to the public and then the public chooses what goes on the ballot, but it's actually the city council and these other government entities that choose what's on the ballot. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's actually correct. We solicit information and ideas from the public, mm-hmm. but in the end, it's the governing body of the city that will put our projects together. The same thing will happen to county commissioners will do theirs, and then the governing bodies of Albin, Burns, and Pine Bluffs will choose the projects that are important to them. And I think that that's good because, you know, if the county were to make those decisions, I think it's the governing bodies closest to the people in their communities that should make those decisions, and
right.
They do.
Gotcha. And then, so Wednesday night is when the city council held, for those listening, is when the city council held their first work session to discuss some of these proposed projects and take public comment on some of them. And at that meeting, I was there. I heard you mention that you and other department heads got together ahead of time and made some initial cuts before the meeting. Can you explain what was cut and why?
Yeah, and so we've actually had a whole series of work sessions that's
Okay.
been for the last 6 months. So the fire
yeah.
department came, the police department came, but this was the first work session and actually was a public hearing where we actually had the whole list of projects that have been proposed to this time. We were asking the community, is there anything else you'd like to add before we start working to create our ballot? And then giving the public an opportunity to comment on the projects that have been proposed so far.
Yeah.
And then the governing body, this was really their first time to publicly talk about projects. It was good. It was a good meeting. I really enjoyed
Yeah.
the list. I thought our chief of staff, Amber, did a great job of putting together a presentation that kind of succinctly talked about each project and the reason that they were proposed. And so, we're looking forward to the rest of this process.
Yeah. So I think just off the top of my head, what I remember is I think at first the city council members, I guess, were wanting to put on the six-penny ballot the building of a new municipal building, and then you decided to actually just put on like a small building as an addition and then some remodeling.
Yeah, so we started at about $190 million of asks, and we're down to about $123 million. And we had two choices. We could remodel our existing municipal building for a cost of around $25 million, or we could build a whole new one. It was about $50 million. And when you look at the ballot of only having $74 million for the city, we really could not afford to build a whole new building. So we kind of administratively took that one off the list.
Yeah.
And then some of our staff members, looked at their priorities and said, there's not enough money. And so to not confuse the issue, they removed some of their projects.
Okay.
A perfect example is the Public Works Department removed like their fleet maintenance lube shop. They wanted to make sure that the number one priority from their department was the remodeling of the municipal building.
Okay.
And so we've cut that down from almost $190 million to just over $120 million. But we're going to have to make a lot more cuts because we only have $74,250,000 that's been allocated to us by the county commissioners. And so we're going to have to make all of our projects fit within that budget.
Yeah, and that leads me into my next question, actually, which is perfect. The city's share of the ballot, like you said, is $74.25 million. How are the other governing bodies' shares split? Is it pretty even, Albin, Pine Bluff, Cheyenne, and Burns, or is it how is that allocation determined?
Right. So the county commissioners made that determination this time. We have decided, really as a group, that Albin, Pine Bluffs, and Burns should get 10% of the money.
Okay.
Now, they only have 1.25% of the county's population. So some people might think that's not fair. But when I look at Albin, Pine Bluffs, and Burns, they don't have enough money ever to do just basic things that they need. So if they need to upgrade a water system, a sewer system, fix a road, put a roof on a building, they would never be able to afford to do that. And so the six-penny sales tax, we give them a little bit more money than their population maybe would warrant, but it's really critical if we're going to have our small towns thrive, we need to give them more money. And so that has been kind of a standard procedure for our group for a number of ballots now. There has been a little debate about how the city and county should split their money, but the commissioners have decided that it should be 45% of the ballot for each of us.
Okay.
And so that would, between us, that's 90%, and then the 10% goes to the small towns.
Right.
And then each of those communities will pick their projects. And then in the end, once all those projects are picked, two people from each of those governing bodies will get together and we'll actually put together the ballot. And we'll put law enforcement and public safety projects together to vote on. We'll put infrastructure, road projects together, and we might have a small grouping of community amenities, and then we'll have a number of things that will be voted on independently. Like last time we asked for $14 million for roads for Cheyenne, and that was put on the ballot independently. We had to vote that one up or down all by itself.
Okay,
But
gotcha.
we try to combine some of the Albin, Pine Bluffs, Burns projects together with some of our projects to make sure that they get good representation for the voters.
Gotcha. Okay. And then going back again to Wednesday's meeting, I think there are around 18 propositions that Amber Ash presented to the city council, including the remodel of the municipal building and greenway maintenance and Cheyenne Fire Rescue and Police Department requests and all of that kind of stuff, if you can just, anything you know off the top of your head, I don't expect you to know everything in depth, just give us an overview of what has been proposed last night at the meeting, Wednesday.
Yeah, so we have a request from the fire department, and that request was for 2 fire stations. To be honest with you, I don't think we'll have enough room on the ballot for both. So the priority from the fire department is to replace Station 2, which is currently on Fox Farm Road, and move that a little bit further south to some land that we bought on College Drive. They need 3 new fire trucks. We've already ordered those trucks, and we're hoping that the voters will pay for them. The lead time for fire trucks is more than 4 years now.
Right.
And so in order to keep our mainline fleet current, we've had to make those orders before we ask the voters, and we hope they'll understand that. But a mainline fire engine lasts for about 10 years. And so we just got 4 engines with our last 6 penny sales tax, and we'll replace 3 more this time. And then they asked for some specific equipment. One of those things as the bunker gear that they wear, it expires over time. You know, it's what they wear when they go into a fire to protect their bodies from the heat. Those things start to expire. The radios that they carry with them, those are like $10,000 a piece, and they're going to expire. And so they have about $1.8 million worth of asks for some specific equipment like that. The Greenway has been an ask by Community Recreation and Events. They're asking for both maintenance of our current 48 miles of Greenway. We started that in 1991, so some of those sections are getting old, and they're going to need a little bit of love. And then some money to expand the Greenway. And I think one of the big asks in that is the replacement of the underpass, our first underpass on Yellowstone Road. It was our very first one. It tends to be flooded, and it just probably needs, it's probably our highest maintenance need that we have. Community Recreation is also asking to replace the Johnson Pool. That pool was built 71 years ago. And this last August, we finally gave up the ghost. We can't make it work anymore. And so in South Cheyenne, it's an amenity that I think people love. And so last 6 penny, we put $250,000 to do the planning for it. And then our plan is to put it on the ballot this time for approval.
Okay.
And then Community Recreation is also asking for some money for downtown. That would include more money to do the 3rd phase of the update on the Depot Plaza. We started that project 25 years ago. And now it's 25 years later. We have to replace carpet. We needed some painting. There's some windows, that need to be maintained. And so downtown is an important part of our community. We put $6 million in the last one, and we're asking for $5 million this time. The engineer's office has a few projects. The Reed Avenue corridor was on the 2017 ballot, and that is the dirt road that has a railroad track that goes from 15th Street to 23rd Street, with the idea being that would become a walkway and a greenway, and would bring those old buildings along there back to life. And this building actually is right on the Reed Avenue
like
corridor.
Right over there.
Yeah, exactly. It's right next to it.
Yeah.
So it's a great project, and I love the vision of it. We're asking for $14 million, $15 million for road maintenance. We get about $5 to $5.5 million a year on the 5th penny sales tax, but it takes $10 million to stabilize our roads a year. And so on the last 6 penny, we asked for money. We're going to ask for it again this time. 5, 6 years ago, potholes were really rampant in Cheyenne. We still have too many potholes, but we're getting better at it. The pump house, which is a really old historic building. There's an ask for $4 million to remodel and restore that building to its beautiful historic self.
Yep.
The airport, we have the MRG. It's the minimum revenue guarantee that would help pay for our share of guaranteeing that we'd have air service, passenger air service in Cheyenne. And then the old terminal, they're asking for almost $4 million to take that old terminal that's kind of empty right now and do some remodeling to bring a restaurant there, to bring an art and aviation center there. The aviation center would tell the amazing history of aviation that we have here in Cheyenne and kind of do the museum for that, and then to have a place for the arts in Cheyenne. So it's a great old building, and we really would like to see it come back to life. And then the police department, they need an upgrade on the radios and equipment in their cars. And they also have a shoot house now, and we're going to use a simulation where they can change the walls so that when those SWAT officers go into train, every time it looks different and they don't know what it's going to look like. And instead of using real bullets, we'll use simulation stuff. So it'll be a great way to help our people train. They're also asking for a a storage building. They have a lot of equipment, and it's spread out all over the place, borrowing space where they can. They'd like to have a building for that. And then they would also like to have 2 new MRAPs. These are armored vehicles, and we have 2 right now that we got from the military, but they kind of look like tanks, and they're just too big. They're too tall. They hit power lines in alleys. They're just physically too big, and they're not really appropriate for urban policing. And so they're asking for 2 small buildings like that, or MRAP vehicles like that. And then the last big one that's on there is like $25 million to remodel our municipal building. It was built in 1978. That's the year I graduated from high school.
Okay.
And I have a Medicare card in my wallet, so I know how old that building is.
Well,
and
at least you have a reference.
Yes, I do. And the HVAC is not there. We've had to close the building, I think 3 times since I've been mayor for environmental reasons, and we've had to replace boilers. And the building just needs to be stripped out and have new electrical, new HVAC systems put in, and then configured for the next 50 years of municipal government. And so those are the projects that we have on our list going forward. And that $120-some million will have to be pared back to 74.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Well, yeah, and before we get into that, I wanted to ask real quick, is this a pretty standard list that you typically see on a 6-penny ballot, or is there any product on here that stands out as different from what you've seen in the past?
I think the big project that's on here that's different is the remodeling of the municipal building. It's a huge dollar amount, and and it's just different. That's something we really haven't seen. We've built like the Botanic Gardens, and we built a lot of different facilities within the city of Cheyenne. But to go back and remodel the municipal building, I think that's the one that probably stands out as being not typical to what we would ask for.
Gotcha.
But very necessary.
Yeah. Like you said, you have to make hundreds of dollars, not hundreds, thousands, hundreds.
Tens of millions of dollars.
Tens of millions. Okay. Yeah. Big number. Can't fathom it. Of cuts. How does the council determine what to cut, and how long do you think it will take you to make those?
Well, I think, what I did with my first 6-penny sales tax ballot as mayor is I will probably end up making a suggestion to the governing body, a place to start. I'll put my priorities down and say, here, if I were king, where I would spend the $74 million.
Yeah.
And we'll present that to the governing body. They'll have a committee of the whole meeting on a Wednesday evening. And they'll go through that list, and they'll make the exchanges that they think are necessary. Projects that they think are more important. They'll make that different list, and then we'll bring that to the governing body for a final vote the next Monday. It is not going to be easy. There's going to be some really worthy projects that are going to be left off. And one of the things that I really want to make sure that we do is I don't want to fund half of projects, because I think when you fund a project, you set the expectation that we're going to build it. But if we don't fund it, then it doesn't get done. And it's hard on staff. It's a disappointment for the community. And so one of the goals that I have would be when we put a project on the ballot that we're going to fund it as much as we can to completion.
Gotcha. And then something else that I only just thought of right before you got here that I thought, I'm not sure if this would affect this next ballot, but as you know, the members of the Wyoming legislature, they might make a decision to cut property tax and replace that with the 2% sales tax. And of course, we've talked about this, how it would affect the 6-penny stuff. Do you know, would it affect this ballot, if at all, if that's passed? And do you know anything further about that at this point?
Typically when the legislature passes a rule, they set a date, and most of the time those are July 1st.
Oh, gotcha.
Sometimes they'll say it becomes effective upon the governor's signature, but most of the time they make things like that effective July 1st. My suspicion would be if they pass a reduction in property taxes and add a sales tax, it would probably end up happening in July. And our vote would be in August. So it could definitely affect us, because if they add 2% more to the state part of the sales tax, the 6-penny becomes an 8th penny.
Right.
And, I think that's a different calculation for a lot of people. The voters of Laramie County have been amazing in supporting both our 5th penny and our 6th penny. I think for a couple of reasons. One is they see the work that gets done and how critical it is for our community to be able to grow and to thrive. But it becomes much more difficult when that goes from 6 pennies to 8 pennies. And so I believe that what they're trying to do to backfill the cut in property taxes is probably worse for us than the cut in property taxes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I was just wondering if not even if it was like at risk, but if there was anything that we were worried about. Obviously, they haven't voted that through yet, and we're not sure if they will, but we will at some point. But
I'm hoping the good people of Laramie County will step up and let the legislators know that you have a high level of expectations for services, and cuts to property taxes affect local government, doesn't affect the state. And hopefully that they would say enough is enough.
Yeah. And so just my last question to finish this off, if you have nothing else to say, if you have anything else you want to add before I ask this last one. Okay. Just wondering if you could give us we know that it's due to the Laramie County Commissioners by April 6th, but what's the timeline beyond that?
So we have to get everything to the commissioners. Then the clerk from the county, she'll go through and start working on the ballot, putting everything together. And then she has some publication requirements. She has to do some public notices, that stuff. And then in July, we'll start actually voting on this. And then in August, the vote will happen, and we'll know what projects passed and what projects don't pass. And then we'll work on making sure that we do a really good job of completing the ones that do.
Okay, awesome. Well, if you're good with that, I'm good with that. Do you have anything else you want to add before?
No, I just want to thank the voters of Laramie County for decades, literally, of amazing support for both the county, the city, and the 3 small towns in eastern Laramie County. It's made a real difference. And when you look at our communities versus many others in the state, a lot of the amenities we have, the quality of our roads, the quality of our bridges, things like that are specifically due to the great support we've had. And I'm hopeful that they will see the value in what we're bringing forward and continue to support us.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you all.
And now, here's Taylor Staples, our arts and entertainment reporter, to bring you a roundup of some upcoming events in Cheyenne and Laramie County this week.
Today, December 12th, the annual Charlie Lake Wrestling Tournament takes place at the Archer Event Center starting at 9:30 a.m. The tournament will also be going on tomorrow. Then, there are library to business drop-in times from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. for adults at the library, and the monthly art walk takes place at various venues in downtown Cheyenne from 5 to 8 p.m. This month is Christmas and cookie crawl themed. Also, kids can go to the Paul Smith Children Village by the Botanic Gardens to meet Santa from 5 to 7 p.m. for free. And in the evening, the Cheyenne Little Theater Players are performing another weekend's worth of shows for Miracle on 34th Street at 7 p.m. tonight at Mary Godfrey Playhouse. Other shows this weekend will be tomorrow, also at 7 p.m., and Sunday at 2 p.m. On Saturday, December 13th, the day starts with a Christmas Classic 5K from 9 to 11:30 a.m. in Lions Park. Afterwards, there is a craft show and flea market featuring Santa from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at VFW Post 1881, a maker's market from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Frontier Mall, and a book party from 10:15 to 11 a.m. at the library. There's also Are You Smarter Than a Cat Lady trivia from 5 to 7 p.m. for $15 at the Cats and Coffee Connections Cafe, as well as Life-Size Clue from 5 to 8 p.m. for grades 7 through 12 at the library, and Christmas-themed performances at night from both Bass Vocal Band at 7:30 p.m. at the Lincoln and the Cheyenne Symphony Orchestra at 7:30 p.m. at the Cheyenne Civic Center. On Sunday, December 14th, there are 2 Christmas cantata concerts titled Tidings of Joy, a Celtic Christmas Celebration at both 8:30 and 10 a.m. at the First United Methodist Church, as well as a candy sale at the Mount Sinai Synagogue from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., an open mic poetry reading from 1 to 3 p.m. at Hawthorne Tree, and a Christmas vintage jewelry sale from 1 to 3 p.m. at the Cats and Coffee Connections Cafe. On Monday, December 15th, there's a matinee showing of Father Stew for adults from 1:30 to 4:30 p.m. at the library, and a jewelry making class from 4 to 6 p.m. also at the library for grades 7 through 12. On Tuesday, December 16th, there are drop-in sessions for genealogy research help from 2 to 4 p.m. at the library, and more drop-in sessions for business startup inquiries from 3 to 5 p.m. also at the library. Then there's also Tuesday Night Book Club with A Christmas Carol from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the library, and meditation for adults from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. On Wednesday, December 17th, there's a Library for All holiday party from 12:30 to 2:30 p.m. for adults and teens 16 and older with disabilities, as well as a Brown Bag Book Club from 4 to 5 p.m. for grades 7 through 12, and a Children's Spanish Story Time from 6 to 7 p.m. And finally, on Thursday, December 18th, There's a sit, stay, read to a therapy dog session from 4 to 5 p.m. for grades K through 6, a teen writing club from 4 to 5 for grades 7 through 12, Crafty Creatures Club from 6 to 7 p.m. for grades 3 through 6, and a true crime book club for adults from 6 to 7:30 p.m. All events on this day are at the library. For more events, go to wyomingnews.com/calendar. Times and prices are subject to change.
And finally, before we close out today, here's a quick recap of some of our top stories and headlines from this past week. As high winds tear across Wyoming and northern Colorado, an increasing number of vehicles have been blown over, littering I-25 and I-80. High winds have been persistent locally since Monday. Between Monday and Thursday, the Wyoming Highway Patrol has seen approximately 34 vehicles blow over. The site of the former Outlaw Saloon is set to become a Southside Community Center following a foreclosure auction Monday morning. The Maury and Bonnie Brown Foundation will pay $1.65 million for the land, which will be combined with adjacent property as the site of the new community amenity. Pine Bluff's Mayor Justin Fornstrom was selected to fill the vacant House District 10 seat following the passing of former Representative John Eklund in November. The decision was made Saturday by the Laramie County Commissioners after interviewing 3 nominees who were selected by the Laramie County Republican Party. And finally, early Monday morning, an overloaded semi-trailer rolled back onto a Laramie County Sheriff's Office patrol car during a traffic stop. The vehicle had been stopped for multiple observed violations, including inoperable brakes, a broken frame, 3 flat tires, and appearing to be overweight. An inspection of the vehicle by Highway Patrol revealed a total of 23 out-of-service violations. That's all for this week's episode of Wyoming Watch. Thank you for tuning in, and be sure to check back next Friday for more.